Hi, my name's Julie Mack. I am going to review and reflect on a lesson that I taught. So this whole time I've been writing a unit for bucket filler bucket dippers, and I find it super important and very valuable to the kiddos in order to build up their awareness of their behavior and their ability to communicate, and then also when they go into new situations, if they move or they go into a new school or they go into a new classroom the next year, it's a very valuable tool to know how to communicate, to know how to protect your emotions, to know how to share your emotions. So this one lesson that I did, I specifically focused on doing bucket filler, bucket dipper lids. So I provided, in this lesson, I provided an activity with this printout. So we emailed it to the kids because we're virtual. And we emailed it to them, and as I talked through the lesson, we talked about and reviewed prior lessons of what a bucket filler and what a big bucket dipper is. And with a bucket filler, how and what fills your bucket? How do you fill your bucket? How do you fill someone else's bucket? How do they fill your bucket? And then how do you prevent somebody from dipping into your bucket? So this lesson with this printout, I talked to them of the importance of what a lid is and how to use your lid. And a lid being that way of protecting yourself, things that you can say and do to prevent somebody from upsetting you, or things that you know other people can do to prevent you from upsetting them. Just things like really stopping and thinking about what you can do, how you can ask them if they're okay, ask them what's going on, is there something you need help with? Maybe they're just frustrated, especially little kids in a class. And the class I'm teaching is second grade. What was amazing to me and very exciting was that when we were doing the examples and we were walking through this activity and we were filling in things, that using words and pictures in order to fill in what is a bucket filler and then what happens with a bucket dipper, the kids were making the connections that when you do something for someone else, it also fills your bucket or dips into your bucket. So when you're really helpful and kind and appreciative and respectful to someone else, it fills your bucket at the same time. So that was something that came up when we were doing this activity. And I think this activity is great because it really brings focus to making that visual and reminder. And I had all the kids draw lids on their buckets in addition to putting words on the sheet and really helping to focus on what are the things that fill and what are the things that dip. Asking lots of questions through this and having a really great strong discussion was the main part of the activity. We started out the lesson, and I included the lesson link that you can look at. We talked about how do we fill, how does our bucket get dipped into, and then we also talked about things that we can do, and I used to stop, think, and figure out. So stop when someone's dipping into your bucket and think about, okay, so what can I do in this situation, and then figure it out by either asking questions, moving forward and taking action of something you know you can do, pulling yourself away, or asking for help. Maybe you pull someone else in, a teacher or another student or a mom or dad, and you say, hey, I just ran into this situation with so-and-so. What do you suggest? Just giving those tools. And I could see that they really understood it and they were having lots of fun with it. I received emails after from the students to my CT saying that they really enjoyed my classes and they like these bucket filler, bucket dipper educational type lessons. And I make it fun. But specifically with this, them to understand. And then if they can physically draw or write something out, it's more likely for them to remember. And then also, I always teach them that you will always learn even more when you teach someone else. So then I have them teach me, or we went into breakout rooms and I have them talk to each other about what respectful and being unrespectful or disrespectful is, for them to really help articulate that to each other, and then also to themselves by talking about it and really understanding. We talked about what negative remarks are. We talked about what being disrespectful or being unkind is, and how that might look in your bucket. A few of the kids wrote, and not surprising, wrote on the dipper bucket COVID-19. Lots of them are frustrated about that. And so we talked about that a little bit, knowing that that is something that has hindered them from either going back into public places or seeing their whole family. So really being able to have the discussions, and I think that's huge because then you're teaching communication. And so having those discussions to go along with a visual where they can fill out with the words and they can fill out with some colors. Had them come to the lesson with colors and crayons and things like that, so that they could decorate and they could design, and then they could show me what they knew. So they took some time with me, discussed, and we started filling this out. And then when they went to breakout room, they were allowed to go ahead and fill it out even more and really discuss it with their friends and chat about different things that they were putting on their buckets and on their sheets. There's multiple points throughout the lesson that we discuss the filler or dipper mentality and how to be. We also related this back to ELA lessons that I'm teaching. That are very much about going into a new place and being in a new school or moving to a new country and you don't know the language. And there are a few kids in the class who I asked as we go through in several of these lessons, how many of you have moved? How many of you have gone to a new school or moved in a different state or a different country? And more than half the class raised their hand. As myself, I've moved tons of times. And so we talked about that, and we talked about what emotion comes up with that. And so then we talked about, well, what bucket would you think you were in, that you're also, filling and emptying your own bucket because maybe you're upset about something or you're not in a good space and you're not happy. So what types of things were you able to focus on and use in order to fill your bucket? Who or what were the things? And one little girl said that she used her stuffed animals to help her feel better, which was wonderful. That was a great example. Another little boy said that he used his grandma because he moved closer to his grandma. So as much time as he could spend with her, being with her, she helped him feel better. So he related it to, well, she was filling my bucket, Miss Julie. And so that was great because they were bringing real life examples with the visual, and they would show me and point to their activity page and say, well, my grandma was this, or my stuffed animal was this for me because it made me feel better. And me moving, I was more, my bucket was empty because I was sad, but these are the things I used to feel better. I think it went really well. I think I did a good job, and they really showed that they understood and they enjoyed it as well. Thanks for listening.